Hello everybody, Walter here with the 7th episode of my Redstone Development Series. This time I want to try my hand at designing a true universal crafting system. Something that is a bit of a trend currently in the Redstone community since the crafter was introduced with a recent snapshot. But contrarily to the designs I have seen until now, I want mine to be able to switch the used crafting recipe without having to manually adjust the crafting grid and its surrounding setup. To achieve that, I plan to make my design multi-stage to handle multiple crafting stages at the same time, modular to allow for easy customizing, for example, when new recipes get introduced, and programmable to allow for the easy recipe change. The program in this case will be represented by a series of items flowing through the system, which are being detected by item filters, which then trigger the corresponding functionalities, like putting a material in the crafter or triggering the crafter or similar. Now, since I've been sitting on this idea for a bit over a week by now, I've already a good idea of how I want to achieve all of that, and I also had enough time for some preliminary testing. So let me quickly get through what I have prepared on the side here. First of all, since I will have to transport items over the entire length of the design, I need a fast and easy to control item transportation system. This means water flows won't work here due to the slightly random timing and the clumping of items. So I'm somewhat limited to using hopper or dropper chains. The latter may require a bit more space, but can be made up to 4 times as fast or even instantaneous, as you can see with the design at the back there. If needed, they can also be slowed down a bit by just adding some delay to those repeater chains here. So I have some additional wiggle room when I have to play around with the timing. So the maximum transportation speed with a standard repeater line is 10 meters per second for each item. And with this instant railbud at the top, designed by R.K.F, by the way, I have, besides of the 1 tick delay of those observers here, an instantaneous transmission of the item from the very back to the very front there, which will get quite useful when I have to work with this design AI. Next up, we have the crafter as the core of this design. Since I needed to know how it behaves in detail for this to work out, I did some testing, and here are the important bits. First of all, the crafter is not affected by quasi-connectivity, which means that I don't have to be as overly careful with the redstone power and its surroundings. It's also earlier in update order than droppers, so in a setup like this here, I only need to power once to craft the item and then push it out of the dropper in the same game tick. An interesting niche case are recipes with byproducts like the honey block or the cake, where I have, besides of the primarily crafted item, some byproducts, empty bottles or buckets in this case. Fortunately, it turns out that these items are pushed out in a non-randomized order. So I always have first the primarily crafted item, the honey or the cake in this case, followed by the byproducts, the buckets or the empty glass bottles, which is quite good to know. Now, putting all of this together, I figured that I need the following commands for my universal crafter language. As the command for putting a specific material in the crafter, I'll generally use the item itself. So if I need some redstone dust in the crafter, I would have some redstone dust in the program. If I need some iron ingots, then I would have some iron ingots in the program, and so on. A special case are non-stackable items, which I wouldn't be able to detect with the usual item filters. Here, as a workaround, I'm going to use a renamed item like paper as a stand-in. Another special case are slots that have to be empty for the crafting. Since I can't guarantee that I always have a perfectly fitting grid layout for the current recipe, and the crafter tries to fill every enabled slot, I use a temporary placeholder here that gets removed directly prior to the actual crafting via an item filter below the crafter. It's a pretty well-known and not really new concept. Following that, we have the commands for controlling the crafter. Since I will have multiple crafting stages, I need to be able to specifically disable and enable each crafter input individually, which is as simple as locking or unlocking the hopper that pulls the items out of the dropper chain and pushes them into the crafter. I'll also likely connect the removal of the empty slot placeholders with this command, so that as soon as the grid is filled and the hopper is locked, these placeholders will get removed. The second command will trigger the crafting, if applicable, and release a crafted item into the dropper chain. And finally, I want to be able to, well, trigger the removal of the next item in the crafter output buffer in case of unwanted byproducts like the buckets or empty glass bottles from before. Finally, there are a few utility commands. The idle command might be useful in case I need to wait for the empty slot placeholders to be removed before I can trigger the crafting. The next Shulker box command will be important for a reason I'll cover in a moment. And the program end command tells the system that the crafting is actually finished and it can finish up whatever it needs to do at the end there. Now, as promised, concerning the Shulker box command, let me show you a few example programs. Let's say I want to craft a single redstone block. I would start by activating the crafter input, putting in redstone dust, then I can deactivate the crafter input again, do the actual crafting and the release of the item, and I would be done. Now the problem is that once this program has run its course and I'm trying to put it back into a container, the order would get scrambled due to the automatic stacking of identical items. To avoid that issue, I will have to switch the container. So once I get the first repetition, I need to switch into another Shulker box, since I'm planning to do this with Shulker boxes. And the next Shulker box command is important so that the Shulker box loader actually knows, okay, now I have a repetition, I need to switch to another Shulker box. This is why this command is so important. A few other things you can do is bulk crafting. So here I'm crafting a whole stack of redstone blocks. So the order is essentially the same. I'm just adding more redstone wire and doing a whole stack of, well, crafting. I can also do multi-stage crafting. So here I would craft a wooden chest. First, I would have to activate the first two crafters, then put in a lock, which would end up in the first crafter. Then I do the crafting and the release of 4 planks, which should end up in the second crafter, since that is already active. And now I need to switch to the next Shulker box, because now I'm putting in the second lock, and this would be the first repetition. If I do this, I would end up with the locks being put into the crafting grid like so, and that's obviously not what I want. Once I have the second lock in there, I can deactivate the first crafter input. Because now I need an empty placeholder, an empty slot placeholder in my second crafting grid, which, if the first crafter would be active, would be put into the first crafter. Since I need it in a second, I need to deactivate the first crafter beforehand. So, empty slot goes into the second crafter. Now I can do the final 4 planks. Now everything is in place. I only need to remove the empty slot. So I deactivate the second crafter, empty slot gets removed. I may have to wait with an idle command, can do the final crafting of the chest, and I'm done. So as you can see, this programming language can also handle very easily multi-stage crafting. And that's pretty much where I'm currently at with this design. So that means the next part is actually getting to the designing part. And here I'll start with building just a few of those item filters. And here we go. So now I have my 3 item filters for now. I've already pre-filled them with a few materials. So if you don't know how this works, essentially I detect the content of this hopper here, and when it's above a certain level, I unlock the hopper below it, which then sucks out whatever item is too much. And since I have pre-filled this with all 5 slots taken, I can only, well, or this hopper here can only suck out redstone dust from above. And that's how this item filter here works. As you can see, I'm going with the dropper chains here. The program will run through this hopper chain, and then the return is essentially the dropper chain, or the output is the dropper chain at the bottom there. And since both are running in the same direction and should be triggered with the same delay in between, the program should not get scrambled. So now, when an item gets detected, this wire here at the back on the corresponding lane will get powered. And that's what I want to use to trigger the release of the next, or of the corresponding item into the dropper chain for the crafting. Now let's see. The simplest way would be just placing a torch here and then having the dropper there. The connectivity, let's place it so. That would work. Or I could even place it, this would be a bit more compact on top, like so. I see just one problem. The crafter will be at some point then at this height. And I need a full item filter, so something like this here, below that one to remove the empty slot placeholders. And that would be a bit too much for my opinion. So let's see, how can I raise this entire thing? Let's see, I could go up here. Place a torch like so. That would be an option. Or I could go with a repeater there and then torch like so. I think I go with this one. Oh, wait. No, this is not tileable. The moment I have a second slab there, this would mean I wouldn't need a target block there, so this is a bit too expensive in my opinion. I will go with this design there. So I want the crafter to be at this height here, so I need the dropper chain at this height there. Yeah, okay, this should work. And then the repeater on top. Again, running in the same direction as those dropper chains here to make sure that everything runs properly and doesn't get scrambled in order. The repeaters also are quite nice, since then I have some can do some fine tuning with the delays. What I can also do is checking whether those here are filled. Although maybe I should go with the layer above that. I'll go with that layer there. So I stop the program or the running of the system when I'm running out of materials. This might be a good idea. Let's see. No, let's actually go in here from the side. So I make sure that those are actually filled. And that, and yeah, that should work. And let's go with slabs here. Or I might get some power issues with those quasi-connectivity or those droppers there. Yeah, essentially, if this line, if any of those here is not filled, this line here will get powered. Since none of those here are filled at the moment, obviously nothing is getting powered at the moment. It's getting powered at the moment. So what were the other ones? Stone and wood. So let me quickly, wait, is this correct? Oh, mix that up. That was stone. That was wood. That is wood, and that is stone. So, and now as you can see, those are all filled somewhat, so I have this turned off. And that's already the release of items into the chain for the crafting, which means now I can start with the crafting stages. I'll just make a quick copy of this item filter here, and then we'll see how we go from there. So as I already said, the crafter will be below this dropper chain and then pulling out the items with a hopper. And now I need to transport this up with a dropper. And if I power this, then it will craft and push the item up and everything should work. Problem. This will not work. The problem is, while this is not random, the dropper itself is random. So while the items are put into the dropper always in this specific order, there is likely a chance that it will, instead of, for example, pushing the honey block, it will push the glass bottles. Okay, I can't use the dropper after the crafter. How do I solve that? Yeah, I need still to go up, so I need to use the crafter to go up then. Okay, what is with this and then this, and I can't use a dropper, so I will have to use a hopper here. That should work. A hopper always goes in order, so the first item released would be the primary item. Okay. Good to know. Now I need to figure out how I want to continue with this. Okay, let's start with, well, the locking and unlocking of, oh wait, I also need the, let's build the item filter below. Oh, this is this item filter. Oh, this fits quite nicely. This would be the removal or trash line. No, this would be the empty placeholder slots. Those I will have to handle slightly different. Those need to be put back into the respective reservoir. Maybe this will be one place where I will switch the direction. Let's not worry about this for now. Let's continue with building the actual item filter. Then we go down twice, down here. And then we have, or can I go with a slightly different approach? Let's see. I need 2. Now this doesn't need to be tileable, so I can go around the corner. And then I have a block there, some wire there, and then I have or maybe just like so. Wouldn't this work for those 2? This would work over there too. So I think I'll have to rework this entire part a bit. I'll be back in a moment. And that was actually surprisingly simple to do. Just moved everything over and this one here diagonally up a bit. But now this is one block slimmer. I also used this to move this over into the middle since I think I have too much circuitry that is centered around this one here to only access it from one side. Can undo this at any time anyway. Now let's have a look at how I can actually implement this circuitry. So let's start with the turning on and off, which is just locking this hopper here and the reverse for this one here. It's just the filter for the placeholders. Getting there is quite difficult. You know what? I'm doing away with this dropper chain here. Let's replace this with a hopper chain, since it doesn't matter if the items flow delayed, since this is just a return for the placeholders that were used up back into the storage. Wait. Additional idea. Let's actually put the line over here. That way I have more space. It doesn't matter if this one here gets locked temporarily. It will unlock at some point. I just have to use a smart item elevator at a later point. But besides of that, this should not be an issue at all. Okay, now I have a lot more space left here. Let's see, I need those two in opposing conditions. So let's see if I were to place touch there. Yep. The flip-flop. For the T flip-flop, I'm likely going to use the copper bulb, since this was introduced together with the crafter. This is not an issue with backwards compatibility. But where to place it is not going to work. No. Let's see. Can I were to move this from the side? I mean, this would likely work, but I'm using up all of the space here. And if I move this itself to the side, so let's see. If I were to, say, place it here, torch there, and redstone cross here, that should work. Let's see. Compare that down, about here. And then I could place a target plot below, or a bit cheaper, slab here, and then block here. As long as I don't have another slab there, that should not be an issue at all. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that should work. Now let's think about triggering this one here. I can only really reach it from the back, like so. Might be able to do something from the top though. Let's see if I place this here and then a redstone dot there. This would also work, but I would have trouble triggering it from above, I suspect. Don't want to go even higher, since this would likely cause some delays I want to avoid. Yeah, I'm going with this kind of setup. So now I need to power this from the back here. I'll do it like this. Yeah, that should work. And now I just need to connect it to something down here. Let's also use a slab there. And yeah, let's go like this. Yeah, that should work. But I'm running into an issue with the trashing of an item that I don't want to use here. How do I deal with that? And this is also not perfectly tileable. I just So, I just realized. Go with the target block here. And then a target block there, yeah, that should work. This is not tileable because the next module would have the slab here, and then this would no longer run into the... oh, wait. Just block here. Then, yeah. Okay, this is still going to work. Okay, don't need the target block. Don't need the extra costs. Good. Still need to think about whether I actually want to deal with the trashing of items. And after a lot of fiddling, I wasn't able to fit anything in here. You can see I recolored a few of those blocks here using my paintbrush data pack, which, if I don't forget, it should be linked. Also had to modify the filter here at the back since it was constantly locking this hopper here and was stopping the item flow. Already pre-filled this with the empty slot placeholders, so this is now working. But as I said, I wasn't able to fit in a trash line, so I was able to, or I could move this a bit down and would even be able to fit in a hopper here, which sucks out the item from this dispenser. So the idea would be releasing an item and then sucking it out here to be pushed into its own line, hopper line or this dropper line. But there is just not enough space where it would not interact with the circuitry around it. So I likely go with the alternative, which is just having to lock all of the later crafting stages and then releasing the item I want to trash, which would mean that the item ends up at the output of the overall system, which is the same thing I would have done anyway. So I'll just do without this command, which means that I only need 2 item filters and not 3, making this even a bit cheaper. Besides of that, just a bit of optimization here and there, but with that, I think the crafting stage is done, except I still need to fill in those filters here. So this is the toggle. So this is this one here, and you can see this works. So now the craft is turned off, actually. And this one here would be the trigger of the crafting and the release of an item. And that also seems to work. So that's this part done. Now, next part is actually figuring out how many crafting stages I'm going to need. So I'll do a little wiki walk, I guess. Now, I just went through the wiki, and unfortunately, it appears that I can't use my original plan. My original thought was that I would have crafting grids that were specialized for certain recipes. So I would have a crafting grid 2x2, a few 3x3, one for stairs, one for slabs, and so on. Unfortunately, when I went through all of the recipes and tried to order the necessary shapes, I ended up with way over 10 crafting stages, which is just too much in my opinion. So I'll go with a more general approach and just have 3x3 crafting grids, and the rest will have to be done with the empty slot placeholders, if applicable. So the only thing I need to know now is how deep the deepest crafting chain goes. And as far as I can tell, it's the mosaic bamboo slabs, which has a depth of 5 crafting stages. Just to be on the safe side, and in case I overlooked something, I'm going with 6 crafting stages. So with that said, let's do some final testing because I already noticed that I forgot a torch or lost a torch somewhere during the fiddling around. And I haven't yet to test whether those two actually work here. So let's start at the back with the release of single items. So I have no redstone wire in here. And if I put a single redstone wire in here and get it back there, I should now have one redstone wire in here. Okay, this is working. And if I, let's say, put two redstone wire in there, simulating the release of two items, I should have two over there. Okay, that is looking very good. Okay, and that's pretty much all I may have to test here. So let's have a test for those here. Let me quickly get this and this. So this is the activation. So let me quickly activate in this one here. Okay, that's working. Now let's put in some wood. So let's say wood comes in here, should end up in the crafter. Okay. Now let's turn off the crafter again. Okay, this is looking good. And now let's release. Oh, let's start with two items. So should craft one item, 4 planks, and 2 should be released. And why are there only the hell? Okay, that worked. So why did it not release the first crafted item? Oh, okay, I see. Those should be set to 2. And if I were to test this now, let's put a plank in there, and then that's 2. And now I have 2 in there. Okay, was just a little time problem. Okay, now it's working. So let's clean that out. That's empty. Triggers, and those are those, and this is not needed. Okay, so this is working. So now the next step is just copying this a few more times. So I have 6 stages in total and adding a few more resources, and then I can essentially already. Oh, wait, then I need to still make the power for the dropper lines, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. And here we go. So now I have a total of 6 crafting stages, followed or preambled by extended storage system, which, by the way, was really annoying to fill in. But now that I have that, it's time to talk about the timing concerning those topper lines here. So first of all, I already emptied out those topper lines, so those should be empty now. And let's actually connect those here so I can test this with just this minimalized setup without having to potentially repair parts of the big system. So then let's go and let's just add one more to each line. Well, actually, I only use at the top there. Oh, why not? Just so I'm at the same timing everywhere. So now just to figure out the correct timings involved, I'm going to essentially trigger those with observers. Now I might change that, or will likely change that at a later point. But for now, I'm just using observers. And then I also need a lever. And now I just need to figure out the correct timings involved. So let's see. The first one I need to power is the line with the program, which is this one here. And then let's see for the delay. Signal item gets sucked in. Then I have 1 tick plus 2 plus 1, 4 tick delay until it gets sucked out, and the item which is already in here gets pushed in there. So I need a 4 tick delay between the two here. So, and then let's see, wire here and photic repeater here. This is just to figure out if the timing works properly. So if I were to, let's say, this is for the redstone wire. If I were to put some redstone wire in here and trigger this just once, what I would expect is the redstone wire to be pushed out at the end there. Exactly. Perfect. So this means that this timing works as it's supposed to. Now let's get to this line over here, which should trigger after 1, 2, 3 ticks. For this one here, how does it look here? 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. And this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I go with 4 here, this should also work quite nicely. So let's see. 4 tick delay here. That was the one from earlier. And if I now put Redstone wire in here, I should essentially have a doubling. So this is the returning or the used up program. And this one here is the detected part of the program or the material to be put into the crafter. And with some minor modifications, I think I'm ready to test the crafting itself. So what I have here is a 4-tick observer clock, which triggers this line here. And then this observer observes this, and after 4 ticks delay, this one here is activated, and after 4 ticks of delay, this line here is activated. So the same timing as before. I'm just running a hopper here in the side, and that's where I can run my program in, which is essentially just this one here for the one redstone block. And if I do that, items start flowing, crafter is active, and the crafter is deactivated, which means that, yeah, the crafting is being done and the item is released. Okay, this works. Let's do this a second time, just to make sure. Items flowing, crafting started, and crafting is done. Okay, this works perfectly, which means now it's time to replace this setup here with a Shulker box unloader that will also include a clock and a Shulker box loader here. Now I could place both on this side, but then I would have to transport the items back, and I would have to, if I use this one here, make sure that I get the signal also to the back, since this is essentially triggered from the side where the output is. No, I will have the loader here, the unloader on this side. Makes it a bit more tricky or a bit more annoying to extend if I need more storage slices, but it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so since it's been a while since I made a Shulker box unloader or loader, I'll spare you the time and come back to you once I have figured a working system. Okay, now that took way longer than I expected, but now I have a Shulker box unloader and loading station together with a minecart or chest minecart loader and unloader. Let's start here with the unloader. So basically what happens is the minecart comes along this line here and ends up on top of this hopper here. Once the items start flowing, the comparator turns off the torch, which turns off the power trail, so the minecart is stuck. The items are pushed into the dispenser, and the dispenser or the items get detected and then lock the hopper. That way there will only at most be one item in the dispenser and one item in the hopper. This is important, or the order of the Shulker boxes might get shuffled around in the dispenser or in the hopper, and that's not what I want at all. Additionally, when the hoppers start get to filled up, this piston retracts and triggers the first dispensing of the first shulker box, which then lands here. And the items get sucked out by this hopper here and pushed into the dropper line. At the same time, this comparator detects the items, turns off the torch, which activates this 40 clock here, which is this repeater, this and those two observers, which then triggers the dropper lines. There is some additionally unneeded activations with this simple setup, but it works. And then once this is empty, this comparator here will turn off, turn on the torch. This piston will extend, push the observer in here. I get a 2-tick pulse into the piston here, which will break the box, put it in this line here. And a short moment later, the next shulker box gets dispensed. And that's basically this part done. Now, the shulker box will land in here, get pushed into this line, and whenever a shulker box gets dispensed, the last shulker box, which is waiting in here, gets pushed along to the end. And the last part that I haven't covered yet is... didn't I think I already covered everything. Ah, yeah, of course. And once the minecart is empty, the powered rail here is turned on again, and the minecart goes along in the opposite direction. Now it can't make this jump up, but instead falls down here, where it waits until the awaiting minecart has been pushed out. So that I only have one minecart waiting there. So this is the unloading station. Now for the loading station, first of all, I have this line here where the program comes through. And in case there is something that is not being detected in any of those item filters, I added a short part which goes straight down and then into the actual output line. And that is where this dark gray comes into play. This is just the powering of the corresponding droppers. So that dealt with, I added 2 more item filters. One for the next shulker box and one for the program end command. Let's start with the next shulker box. So this basically powers this block there, which would trigger this piston here. And this pushes up and triggers this observer. The observer triggers the piston, which breaks the shulker box, which should be filled up through this return line here, landing in the hopper, and then push that into this empty minecart with a chest at the moment. A few ticks later, through this observer chain here, the dispenser gets activated and pushes in the next empty shulker box. The shulker boxes are provided from the unloader all the way over here, and then just put where this dropper here into this dispenser. And this hopper in the dispenser. And the program end works very similar. For one, it also triggers the next shulker box functionality, and additionally it also triggers this piston down here, which gives me a short pulse into the powered rail below this minecart, which means that after the corresponding delay, this minecart is being sent off. It will also cause this piston here to retract, and at that point, this minecart should already be waiting on top. So this minecart is sent off, and then this minecart follows and lands in this spot there. And that's how this works. So let me show you this in action. So I have 3 with 4 redstone dust and the next shulker, and then 1 with a program end in there. And if I send this off, you can see it's sent off. The shulker box is being unloaded. I get the redstone wire out at the end there, and the items are being flowing inside of those shulker boxes here, and this is sent off, and the next shulker box is waiting. So that's done. Now I need to, well, copy this quickly to my big setup over there. And with that, the crafter system itself is pretty much done. Now, while I was testing whether everything works properly, I've run into two little surprises, which are kind of obvious once you see it. So the first is that you have ability of those crafting stages here to circle craft. What I mean with that is when I release an item and I haven't turned off the input of the crafting stage, the item will be directly put back into the crafter. Which is nice because now you can do circular crafting, but it's a bit annoying since now you have to make sure that you turn off the crafter before you do the crafting if you want to use whatever comes out of that for later or output it at the end. So in a sense, this is essentially Crafty's counter, somewhat hidden in this crafting stage. So this is the first surprise. Workaround is just locking and unlocking the input as needed. The second surprise was well, that I simply forgot that those hoppers here introduce a 4-tick delay, which means that when I input items into a crafting stage, I have to wait for one command equivalent or for redstone ticks before it actually reaches the crafter. If I don't do that and then lock the crafting input, then the item will get stuck in the hopper and will not be put into the crafter. So that's where I will need some idle commands. Similarly, I have a 4-tick delay from the item being released until it reaches further. And that is primarily important when I want to feed the output of one into the input of the next stage, where I actually need a total of 2 idle commands, since idle here and idle there. So I noticed this when I was trying to implement the one chest recipe, which I first thought I could fit into 2 shulker boxes, but with the need to unlock and relock and additional idle commands, this was split into 4. So now I'm doing first the activation of the 2 crafters, then putting in the first lock, and now I need to wait, or next shulker box, because now I need to relock the first crafter. Then, since this is already a idle command, or to be more precise, this here is already the equivalent of an idle command, I can do directly the crafting. Then I need to wait before I can put the empty slot in the second crafter, since the first crafter is not online currently, so that goes into the second crafter. And now I can, or need to switch to shulker box again because I want to reopen the first crafter, put in a lock, and now I need to wait again, or idle and switch to shulker box, so I can relock, release the last 4 planks, which should end up in the second crafting stage. Now I need to wait for 2 commands before I can relock the second crafter and do the crafting, and then I'm finally done. So a whole lot of waiting and unlocking and locking due to the circular nature and the involved delays. So now I've put those shulker boxes here in this minecart, and if I let this run, in just a few moments you should see the items flowing, and I'll go to the second stage since that is a bit more interesting. So here over there we are crafting the planks, and now they should start flowing into this crafter here. Okay, empty slot, and then a little while later I should get the last few planks, empty slot removed, and then the crafting. And the item was expelled. So that worked quite nicely, but we are not yet entirely finished with the crafting stages, because if you look down here, we still have the line that returns the empty slot placeholders, and still need to put this back into the storage at the top here. I think I go low tech with this by using a water based system. Yeah, that should work. So let me see. This should be a smart dropper. But that's just using a comparator. Output goes on top and to the side. Block here, and then a raise block, a lowered block, and a repeater here. And then some wire, and this is already working. Let's just turn this off for now. I don't want to have this flowing all over the place. I think I use glass here. So let's see, I need to encase this. And obviously this will pop up, but not too much of an issue. Now I want to bring this over. Let's see. I think I'll use an observer here because water can flow on top and has the same delay. So then let's simply move this over here, and I need to close this. Wait, I need to go one further and then close this up. So to make sure that nothing flows over, and I will need a sign. Come on, sign to actually stop the water flow. So that's looking good. Let's get the item frame so we know what's going on here. And that's 2. So that's that done. Now I need the water. This in. Since a somewhat recent update, items will flow up in water, so I don't even need a water column. And now let's quickly replace the wire here. And that's looking good. Getting sucked in and obviously flowing too far. Let's just stop that here. And now it seems to work. Yeah, that works quite nicely. Now it's filled in, which means that now we are pretty much done as far as I can tell. The last part would be somehow connecting this here to the input. I likely go with the low-tech solution and just blocking the selection of a new recipe when there is a low level on the materials here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to connect this line in a sensible way to this setup here because there is otherwise the chance that I would look at it at the wrong moment or similar problems. So, although maybe I would have to look this hopper here. So let's see, maybe I can get this working. Because then I wouldn't have to worry about connecting this to my recipe reservoir. So for that, I'm going to use a different color. Let's go with red, just so that I know what's going on here. And first things first, I need this signal somewhere over here so that I can actually get down there. So let's go over here. Then let's go down. And let's see, let's lock this hopper here. And then let's see, can I get this? Or maybe let's just anything that could block this? No, I'll just go with this to the side here, and then I go down. I don't need. Yeah, let's go down. And then I have a wire here and a wire here. And currently everything is in the state it should be. So let's add a heater there. Oh, wait, let's actually watch here. Yeah, that's looking better. Then we're going over here, all the way down here. And then I need a torch here. Oh, wait, no, I don't need a torch there. How do I do this? Okay, let's replace this with a repeater for now. Running block, exactly like that. And now this is unlocked. Okay, so now the moment the system here notices that something is running out, it will automatically lock this hopper here, which sucks out the items from the shulker box. And that way I will get a lot of annoying noise, but nothing else is going to happen. Although I might consider also locking this one down here. So let's see. I want this locked when this is powered, but only if this is powered. So let's say I make a repeater in there. And now the clock is also stopped the moment this here starts making issues. And I almost forgot something again, because this signal line here, or redstone wire, is obviously more than 15 blocks long. And subsequently, a signal from over there will not reach my turn-off point here. So let's see, how do I deal with that? Let's just go and forward this so I see where the signal stops. Okay, this is just a tiny bit too short, but if I have more storage, I would have more of that problem anyway. So let's see, I need an extension. I just build it somewhere in the middle. First step, extension like this. I won't need that then. Now I need to connect this still to this line here, or to this part of the line. So let's do this the lazy way. And that works. Okay, now the signal is traveling all the way. I know how to deal with the need for extensions. Okay, now that is, I hope at least, everything for the crafting system itself. Now I need to deal with where I store my recipes and how I dial them up. I'm thinking I'm going to use a variant on my banking system for that, which I released quite a while ago. But since this has little to do with the crafter itself and is a bit tedious, I think I just cut that part out and show you the final product. And after a whole lot of work, I now have a basic storage system for my recipes done. So the idea is pretty simple. I'm again using an item filter to detect when I'm basically demanding a certain recipe to be released. Then when that happens, this piston here retracts and the corresponding minecart here can get released. Now the minecart itself was standing on top of a detector rail, and that means if the minecart now is returned on the opposing side, it will end up again in this slot here. So this is exactly what I want. And additionally, also very simply done, I can detect when any of those recipes here is empty. So as you can see, that way I can make sure that I only demand a single recipe when I'm running the system. Otherwise, if I have more than one recipe running amok here, this will obviously not work. So that's pretty simple. The only thing to note here is I'm using a water-based elevator to get the minecart from down here back to the top. The whole elevator here I got from Reddit by Carl Whiting, linked in the description. But besides of that, there is no real surprise. Besides, I needed to make a little modification to this part here, which leads the overflow of non-detected commands into the used up command line. This was necessary because I have a similar situation here, and here I ran into a bug, and that stopped the transportation of items a bit early. So now this should not be an issue anymore. Having said that, I still need to do a lot of work. First of all, I need to add more recipes, and I need some kind of user interface where I can actually trigger the system in a more comfortable way, because this is rather bare bones still. Okay, so it's now actually the next day, and I'm feeling a bit of time pressure since I want to release pretty soon. So what do I have right now? I have this crafting area here, or control area, where I have the crafted items being put into those barrels on the right. They are just raised using this water elevator up to here, and then put into the barrels. On the left, I have this dropper here where I can put the recipes in there, press the button, then they get sent off, cause the release of the corresponding recipe, which then gets crafted. And then the recipe demand gets put back into this recipe reservoir here. At the same time, when a recipe is released, I get a signal which causes this lamp to be turned on. And once the recipe has been used up, is put back into the reservoir or the storage, then I will also get a short pulse into this signal or this system up here again. So if there is another recipe or more waiting, they will be automatically crafted too. I haven't included any kind of spam proofing yet, which is one of the things I still want to change. And I also noticed during the testing that the bulk crafting doesn't work properly. The problem here is that when I try to bulk craft, I just get a constant signal into this line here, which just constantly powers the crafter, and I only get a single crafting. The release works fine, but the crafting not so much. So this is a bit of an issue. Another thing I should mention is that I had to redesign the recipe storage because there is a bit of an issue where maybe I can actually show this. What I would usually expect, usually I would expect that the minecart goes straight. Unfortunately, due to interactions with the minecarts waiting in those storage cells here, sometimes it gets redirected and ends up as a pair in one cell, and that's obviously something I can't work with, because then the next cell or the actual cell would remain empty and the entire system locks up, which is really annoying. So I had to change that and make sure that there is always a distance between the traveling minecart and the waiting minecarts. And this is the solution I came up with. The minecart gets released downwards, lands on this line here. Doesn't matter whether it goes right or left. If it goes right, it gets redirected and goes left anyway. If it's left, it just continues on. And when it gets returned, there is always a bit of a distance to the minecarts waiting, so there is no pairing up going on here. Nice benefit of this is also due to the way I am now connecting the pressure plate to the T-junction, or the detector rail to the T-junction. I can toggle the default state of this T-junction by just replacing the wire here with a torch and a block. And that way I can work around this T-junction being directional and don't have to change or redirect the minecarts first all the way to this end and then run them in the opposite direction. So minute change in the circuitry, and I can use this in any kind of direction. So this is very nice, but as I said, there are still two little issues I want to solve before I stop recording, and that are the spam proofing here and trying to add some kind of clock down here to actually make this able to do actual bulk crafting. And with that, the spam proofing is done. I had to add some more additional intelligence to the circuitry. So the idea is pretty simple. When I send a pulse through the input line for the recipes, I will detect that. This pushes the composter down. Then this torch here will turn on, and that will power this piston here, which causes or make sure that this piston here can't extend, which is the one that actually does the triggering. So as you can see, it's blocking a further activation, so no spamming. And once the return signal has arrived, the piston retracts again, and I can do the next trigger. And from below, all I needed to do is run this essentially also into this line, plus a little side track here, which is this purple one, which is the retriggering in case there are more recipes waiting. So that's this part done. Surprisingly simple, considering all of the required circuitry or functionality. But with that, I think I'll try my hand at the more tricky one, which is making bulk crafting actually possible. And after a lot of head scratching, I think I have found a solution for bulk crafting. So for this to work, I actually needed to separate the trigger the crafter command from the release one item from the crafter buffer command. Unfortunately, it was not able to fit in any circuitry that would do both without well, either triggering the crafter too much or releasing too many items. So, or too little items. So I had to split this off. But now this works. So let's see. Okay, the hopper is empty. I have 4 in the crafter. If I do 2 crafting, I should see now, okay, 2 crafted into 8. And I can also release, for example, just 3. And then I have 5 left. Or I can release just 1. Now I should be down to 4. So that works now. Nice side benefit should be that I can do away with a few of the idle commands I had to add in my crafting recipes. But of course the downside is that now I need to adjust the crafters here, and I will also need to adjust the recipes I already have. Which is a bit of a bummer, but this is it worth, I think. So anyway, let me quickly do this and then I'll come back to you. And after some quick thinking, this is now working. I had to make some further modifications since this was unfortunately not really tileable. Torch on this side was interacting with the piston on this side of the neighboring crafter, which was a bit of well, issue. So I had to quickly modify this. Now it's working. I already adjusted the first recipe, which actually decreased the number of shulker boxes from 4 down to 3, which is for the chest. So let me quickly activate this and show you what happens. So once this thing here is running, I will see the oaks being turned into planks. Come on. And then directly put into the next crafter, where well, they are put to use. In theory, I could actually do the entire thing in just one crafter with circular crafting. I might actually do that. Give me a moment. And wouldn't you know it, it actually works. So now I can actually do circular crafting with this design here. Perfect. Okay, that's really nice. And now I have just enough time, I think, to readjust in the recipes I have already prepared, and then I'll start with the editing and, well, releasing of the video. And I'm finally done updating the recipes I already had to the new infrastructure and commands. Took a bit longer than I expected. I'm running a bit late actually, so I think I stop here and start with the editing and uploading. So anyway, I will put in this word here as a download in the description. I will also, once 1.21 comes out, put this here as a copy in my standard Redstone basics world, so you can find it there too. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed this lengthy episode, and well, see ya.